Hello and welcome back to The Good, the Bad and the Pure Evil. I'm so sorry for my month-long absence. My husband went to London for work and came back with the new COVID variant, the Kraken. A week of isolation resulted with me 6 days later getting it anyway. So it has been a diseased household of moans and groans that no human should make. But I'm back and getting on with life. So if you like real life fairy stories, the good, bad and pure evil, then you've come to the right place, because that's exactly what I do. So hit that like button, subscribe to the party, and ring the hell out of that bell, and let's go. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. We propose to accelerate the development of the appropriate lunar spacecraft. We propose to develop alternative liquid and solid fuel boosters, much larger than any now being developed, until certain which is superior. We propose additional funds for other engine development and for unmanned explorations. Explorations which are particularly important for one purpose, which this nation will never overlook: the survival of the man who first makes the daring flight. But in a very real sense, it will not be one man going to the moon. If we make this judgment affirmatively, it will be an entire nation. For all of us must work to put him there. That was John F. Kennedy's speech to Congress on May 25, 1961, and his challenge to NASA, a challenge that came from 1957 when the first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, was launched by the Russian. And the US was like, can't have that. So they decided to launch their own satellites, and both began this tit for tat to get the first human into space, which did happen on April 12, 1961, with Russian Yuri Gagarin, and he was the first person in space. A month later, Alan Shepard went up and he became the first American in space. But this wasn't good enough. So a month later, in May 1961, Kennedy gave the speech to challenge NASA, put a human on the moon in 10 years or less, and NASA was like, we're on it. And so the Apollo project was born. Now, Apollo 11 would be the Apollo to do the moon landing in 1969. But before that, there was 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to 10. So 1 was manned by Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee. It never launched because on January 27, 1967, a fire broke out in the command module during a launch pad test. It killed the crew, destroyed the module, and set the Apollo project back to the beginning. From this, Apollo 2 to 6 were all unmanned, so to be a bit safer during the testing station. Feeling a bit more confident in what they were doing, Apollo 7 was manned to demonstrate the operations ability of the Command Service Module, or CSM. Apollo 8 was the lunar orbit ability, 9 completed a lunar landing mission vehicle in low Earth orbit, and 10 completed a mission, all except for the final descent. Apollo 11, July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, watched by millions from their living rooms. 4 days later, Apollo 11 neared the moon's surface. Before touching down, it was time for the men to split up. Collins went to the Columbia, the command module, and he would stay in orbit around the moon. Armstrong and Aldrin, they went into the Eagle, which was the lunar module, and they went down to the moon's surface. The Eagle was going too fast and they were missing their target point. Alarms would sound, and Armstrong, who was piloting the Eagle, would have to find a place to land. 90 seconds of propellant left and Armstrong landed. Preparations for the two to walk the moon began at 23:43. This took nearly 3.5 hours to complete. 6 hours, 39 minutes after landing, they were ready and the Eagle depressurized at 2:39 a.m. The hatch opened. 2:51 a.m. Armstrong began his lunar descent. 2:56 a.m. Armstrong stepped off the footpad and said, "That's one small step for a man and one giant leap for mankind." At the time there was a delay, so it sounded like he said there was one small step for man. However, he later corrected it, saying he said for a man, not man. Aldrin would soon join Armstrong and they would gather soil samples and planted their lunar flag assembly. President Nixon spoke to the pair and they returned to the Eagle. At 5:11 a.m. the Eagle's hatch was closed and depressurized and settled for sleep. They were woken hours later and at 5:54 p.m. they lifted off to rejoin the Columbia. July 24, 1969, the crew returned to the Columbia and they splashed down as planned, and the USS Hornet was the recovery ship. August 13, the three astronauts were in parades in their honours with 6 million attending. Over the next couple of years, 10 more astronauts followed the Apollo 11, with the last mission in 1972. Humans haven't returned to the moon since, but they still continued on the space exploring. Today, NASA are working on the Mars project and getting people on that. With Apollo's 11 success, they are hopeful of its chances. And there you go, that is the quick story of the Apollo 11 and how men landed on the moon. If you wish to have other stories, please let me know if you'd rather the good, the bad or pure evil, and I will do more of them. Hit that like button and please subscribe to the channel to keep up with my videos. I really appreciate your support. Until next time, this was the good, the bad and the pure evil.